Alright guys, welcome back to another Patreon tutorial. Everything's a bit skewed this month, so this is a week later than it should be, and the next thing is going to be a week later as well. It's just going to be how it is this November, just because things just get shifted around. And I have things I need to finish with Snowcat Prince, and I'm super excited to tell you all about that next week. But yes, we're doing another Patreon tutorial. If you haven't seen these before, it's pretty much me trying to teach you how I do things. Might not be the correct way for you to do it, but at least I'll show you how I do it and maybe it'll help you. This one's probably not going to be a very long one because what you guys voted on was how to scan and edit things for print, and it shouldn't take too long. I'm trying to actually move away from my Mac, so I'm going to do it all on Krita/Affinity Publisher, because that's kind of the alternative I have to Photoshop, InDesign on my Mac. So I spent most of the day today actually tweaking the screen colors on both this screen and this screen so that it's vaguely similar to my Mac, because I trust my Mac when it comes to printing. What I see is pretty much exactly what I get when I print things with the company that I print things with. So I've decided to try and do it with Krita. I'm not gonna actually print it, like I'm not gonna send it to the printer, but usually it should be fine, especially when you've kind of tweaked your colors to your screen to be alright. Now I'm actually very happy because it is pretty much exactly the same as my Mac, except for it being a little bit less saturated, but I don't have a saturate button, so I'll just have to live with that. But it's not going to be like a shock that something is too green or too bright or something else. So we're going to start with the very, very simple thing, and that is to scan the artwork. I have it's going to be loud. I have a Canon scanned LIDE 120. And it's pretty cheap. It's one of those cheap scanners, but it works really, really well. And I'm going to be scanning. So I'm just going to be scanning this one that you guys have probably seen before. It's flipped on this camera because I like flipping that camera. I'm sorry. And it's one of those that, like, it's kind of dull when you look at it, but when you scan it, it looks kind of nice. It's all right. You just have to edit it a little bit. You can't just go directly from scan to print. So I'm gonna try and make this show up. I'm confused about scanners. Here we go. So something that you should always turn off when it comes to things. I've done it for the photo scan. I've turned off image processing. Always turn that off. You don't want it on because they will make the lines weird and too sharp. It's meant for text or pictures. It's not meant for art. So just turn off everything. You can do 600 dpi if you want to. I usually leave it at 300. Color, photo, auto scan. I've just left it on auto scan because it does really well. If you don't want that, you can scan the whole page, like the whole A4, depending what scanner you have. But pretty much leave it at base level, no compression or tweaking or anything. Just leave it as is. And when you've done that, you put your art in your scanner. This is such a basic tutorial, but hopefully it'll be helpful for some people. So I'm just holding the lid down because the paper is a bit curly. I'm gonna scan the photo. It's faster than my Mac scanning actually, so I'm pretty happy with this new change. And here we have our image. And as you can see, it's pretty... I checked it earlier, and I'm pretty sure it picked up all the details. There's a few details maybe around this area that's very, very light, but usually my scanner is not good enough to pick that up, so I'm not gonna be screaming at it anytime soon. But I am going to open that in Krita. So Krita is a free program, as most of you guys know. If you wanna, like, it's very easy to find it. So here you are, you've scanned in your art. It should be a bit pale Usually scanners do that, at least mine. I don't know, maybe that's not a normal thing. But to tweak the colors, make sure your screen is okay. The best way to do that is to find the most updated screen that you have, is most likely your phone. So for me, I would open my phone, find the same image on both my phone and my computer, and then try and make what I'm seeing on the computer the same as on my phone. What I did earlier was to do that with my Mac, so it pretty much just comparing it. My screen on my phone is actually better than either of those, so it's a bit. It looks better on here, but I can't do anything about that, so I'll just have to live with it. But for now, we are going to go down here. You should be able to see it. There's a little plus icon here, and the button next to it, you can click on that, and there's something called a filter layer, which is pretty much going to help us with our colors and everything. So we're going to start with levels. I always do levels. You can use curves, but I like to use levels. I just gotten used to it. Auto levels hasn't really done anything for me here in Krita, so we're just going to do this. I usually take this down quite a lot. I usually keep this here. Usually when you print stuff, it will become darker than whatever you have. Sometimes we can try going darker with this as well. See if it actually, I want to see if it actually caught, it did actually catch that part here that I didn't see earlier, but it's not that important for me. That's not what I wanted. So we're trying to make this pretty similar. Especially if you're just going to keep it like online, then you can just do this similar. Sometimes I would maybe push it a bit further than what it was before, like traditionally, because I like pushing a bit further. When I printed this, I actually pushed the colors quite a lot more. You might have noticed that the print of this is a lot more vibrant than the original, and that is because I wanted it more punchy, and I like that. I love turning up the saturation. So you can do more filter layers on top of this. It's kind of up to you. I'm gonna do a... There's lots of different ones here. Color balance, burn. I was gonna try and see if I have a normal... There's an intensity one? I haven't seen this. Oh no, I don't want to do that. I usually just use this one. That's actually correct. That's nice. Okay. I would punch this up quite a bit, so you can see it gets a lot more vibrant. So this is probably good. The lightness I might turn down a bit as well, depending on what I feel like. But today we are going to keep it at -1 because the paper is a bit yellow. That might be why it's doing it differently. All right. I actually don't know if there's a... I don't know if I can find an actual contrast slider. There probably is one, but for now this looks very good for me. The next thing you can do then is to zoom in. So these two are just filter layers, they don't actually do anything else. What you can do now is that if you find anything that needs to be fixed, you can use, I think there is a spot healing tool here. Usually I would just paint over it, but you can do that and go through and like clean up tiny things that you pretty much don't want on your image, like tiny dots. I try not to clean up too much. If I'm going to clean up the whole thing and like clean up edges and stuff, that would be a whole other thing. But I like to try and leave it. It's not the best one, but it's not the worst either. I'll leave it. I'm not going to print this today. Should be fine. Alright. Another thing I do like to do when I'm going to print something that has white in it is to make sure that is white. I'm going to group all this together I'm gonna duplicate the group. It's just, I just do this when I want to be safe, that I have it way back. And now this is all one layer. I'm actually going to sharpen it first. So you can go to enhance and there should be a sharpen. That's way too much. I'm probably gonna take that down. I don't want that much sharpen. Just a little bit, because there's... I haven't tried most of these. Usually I just use sharpen, but it was very harsh right now, so... But you can use unsharpen usually. Just want a little bit. Especially if you're gonna print it smaller. This just helps. Okay, there we go. And then, yeah, I know that this is actually technically not white, this here. Oh, something's happened with my settings, but you want to make sure that if you want to make this white instead of the off-white that it is technically with my on my print, you can put a complete white spot here or wherever you need to match it. As you can see, you can clearly see that. Well, I can. So what you could do to make everything white is to leave that there, go under it, and then add another filter layer. And I usually go on either levels here. Just do that there. And then take that all the way up to the point where I can't see it. Sometimes I would even do this. I'm not gonna do this one though. I realized that one's a bit too harsh. Go here, I'm gonna go to this one. I know it's not right now. You can change the hue as well. This is easier to do in Photoshop, but if you don't have Photoshop, then you don't have Photoshop. That's not working, is it? But at the same time, I know that this paper is off-white, so it's going to be this color anyway. Make sure that if you're printing something else around it and you're expecting that to be white, like paper white, make sure you fill it with whatever color. So I'll show that in a second. But I'm gonna save this like that. And I'm going to take this into a publisher file because I don't like just taking a picture and putting that into whatever printer that I'm using. I like to have some control over how it's gonna look. So I go into this is Affinity Publisher, which is a new program and it works perfectly. I did it for my Snowcat Prints preview, so I know now that it will be okay when if the time comes to publish that book. But for print, you can do lots of different ones. We are going to do, I think, I'm not quite sure what, A6. A6 is a normal postcard. If you're doing print, I would recommend just adding 3mm bleed to everything. There's not much you need to do here. Just one page, everything. Except if you need to, if you want another page on the other side, if this is a postcard, you can do something on the other side as well. Then you need another page. But for us, we're just gonna keep this. We are gonna do this so that we have that instead. Gonna find my picture. I'm actually gonna export it properly. go. And I'm going to throw that in here. So as you can see now, you can clearly see that our paper is off-white. I don't know if you can see it, but I can see it. So I'm just gonna scale this down to the size. The thing with this paper is that it's not perfectly the size that we want it to be. That's what I was talking about. So instead of making everything white, I'm actually going to, now I can see the bleed. So we need to fill out the bleed as well. So we're gonna do this. When there's 3mm bleed, you have to take everything out to the corners. We don't have anything underneath it, so I'm gonna make a new box. This is probably going really quickly. There's not really much I can do. There's a color picker here that you can drag, and then you can choose the off-white color of your paper, and that should match it up. But we also do need to take this, and I can see that it's not completely straight, and I'm gonna crop it as well. I'm gonna crop it just like that. I would probably tweak it more depending on what sort of print it is, but this is pretty much how you do it. To see what's actually getting printed, everything outside this square is going to be cropped. So it's, is it Control Shift W? We'll hide that. So this is whatever's going to be printed. Ta-da! It's really not too much to it. You just need a scanner that's reasonably priced and reasonably good. The Canon Light is, I think mine's like £50 or less, maybe even 20. I can't remember. But yeah, so after you've gotten this into your program, if you don't have a program like this, like a publisher program, and you don't want to learn it, you can technically just add the bleed and everything in whatever drawing program you have. But I would recommend having a publisher program because it's easier. I've tried it in Photoshop. When first I did my Far in the Moon Rabbit, all the pages were done in Photoshop and exported to PDF, well, I think it was PDF or JPEG, like single images, and it was just a whole mess. I do not recommend it. Using a publisher program is a lot better, and now that you can get this program for £50 instead of subscribing to Photoshop or like Adobe Suite. If you already use Photoshop, you will have to pay extra for like everything. Anyway, I don't do that. That's why we're using these weird programs. But you should be able to find the exact same settings in InDesign or Photoshop as well. Like what I'm using is what I'm used to using in Photoshop and InDesign. So from here, you can go to File, I think, Export. And I have some color settings that you guys can use for printing that I use myself, and it just turns out perfectly because as most of you know now, that when you scan things and have things on your screen, that is RGB and not CMYK. You print in CMYK, which means that there's a different color spectrum, which means that greens is a pain to try and make right in printed products, which is my nemesis. I hate it. But to kind of convert your RGB to CMYK, don't do that in whatever art program you're using. Don't do it in Photoshop, don't do it in Krita, but take it into your publisher program and then follow the settings I'm going to show you now. More, there we go. So I made a setting here that's called MixM3. That's what I used for MixM when I was printing the preview copy. They helped me out. We're on the phone a little bit to try and find out all the settings for this program because they haven't used this one before. They only have InDesign. But what you need to do is to make it a PDF, unsupported properties, rasterize. Do not downsample in images. Do not click this. This is no. Leave that off or click it off if it's already on. Use 300 dpi. Do not allow JPEG compression. Do not do that. Then compatibility is the PDFX1A 2003. That's important. I didn't have that. I had the Acrobat whatever before, and MixM didn't like that. It turned out really weird. When I switch it over to that one, it worked perfectly. So do that. Color space is CMYK, and then coded foreground 39 ISO, whatever that is, that one. And you can do overprint in black, but you don't really have any other settings. Include bleed, don't really need to include printer's marks, I just do it, and that should be it. When you do all of these PDF things, it should be converting the image to the CMYK. So I can close these and I can do my export. I'll just put in here. Now the exported version is going to look a bit different. It's going to look very different with the colors. I never trust this, like this always looks really weird to me. So I always like to go and use Chrome usually. I take my PDF and I view it in Chrome and it looks a lot better. So don't trust whatever reader that you have that pops up after exporting. It's not gonna, don't do that. Now I'll show you guys who I use for my as my printer for prints, like postcards and stuff. They are called printed.com, and I'll show you guys real easy, just because I really do trust whatever it shows on the preview. So I'll do order now, just standard A6 landscape one side. This is just for this show and tell tutorial. I'm gonna do silk. Usually I think last time I printed this particular print I used the Fresco Gesso, which is like a nice textured paper, or Rivers Shetland, one of these. But right now I'm just gonna do silk. That's the normal one. It's pretty good. Don't need anything else in that. And you can add finish if you want, but I usually, I like either of those. Matte is quite nice. And then I'll just do continue, whatever the cost is. And here's where you upload your artwork. I've used these for prints as well. I just used the poster option and it was pretty good. Like their quality is pretty good. You can also use Mixam now for prints, I think, which is a lot cheaper than trying to do like gesso printing or whatever. That costs a lot of money. That's like £5 per print. But these ones are like 10p per print, so it's very different. And that's what it looks like. And I'm pretty sure that whatever you see here it's going to be within the margin of error, of course, but like what you see here is what you're going to get on the paper, which is really good. So that's all the steps that I do. I've gotten much faster at this. Before I would tweak and tweak and tweak and tweak. Now I'm like, that's probably fine because I trust the printers. I've used them so many times that I know that whatever I see here is pretty much what I'm gonna get. So I'm very happy about that. And also if they mess up, they've messed up a few times, they actually reprint it or they give me my money back. So anyway, that's the people that I recommend to try for postcards if you are able to use them in your country. Other printers you should ask or check what color profile they use, so what kind of CMYK. I showed you guys the foreground one with the Mixam, and that's usually what I use for everything. But yeah, you can always call them and ask, or send them an email and ask what color profile to use for printing. And that's what I recommend. With color profile, I'm talking about what I showed you guys here. The color space and profile. So color profile pretty much here. So keep that in mind when you're printing. It's pretty much, but don't worry about it, because if you try and go into Photoshop and change everything to CMYK, it turns out really weird. So I wouldn't recommend that at all. I would just do it with the publisher program, either InDesign or this one. I don't think there's any other publisher programs, so you'll have to spend a lot of money on this. But for me, it's just a peace of mind, because I know that it will turn out good because of everything that I've set up to work now. So, and that is pretty much the tutorial. I don't know what else to say. It's pretty straightforward. Hopefully I helped with whatever you were wondering about, because I'm guessing it is pretty strange or like scary to set up prints or to do prints because you're afraid you're gonna mess up your colors. A good rule of thumb is to always lighten your art instead of darkening it. always remember to try and get like a nice contrast, of course. Like I've darkened mine a little bit, but whenever it's printed, it will be darker. So when I printed the Snowcat Prince preview, it is quite dark. So now that I know that, I'm going to lighten all the pages before I print them because I want them to be lighter than darker. So that's always go lighter instead of darker because light on paper is different from screen. So that's pretty much the biggest tips that I can give you is to always go lighter. If you're in doubt, go lighter. Lighter and more vibrant, but most of all lighter. But that is it for this tutorial. It's half an hour, so it is a good amount of time, a good chunk of time. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys helped you with something. You can always ask me questions in this post on this patrons page, can't speak, or on Discord, or on messages on Patreon. Always remember to send me messages on Patreon or on Discord. Don't send me emails and stuff because I'm really bad at handling that stuff. It's easier if you just keep it in Patreon for questions and everything like that. And that is it for this tutorial learn with me video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Oh wait, if you have any suggestions for next month's tutorial, please put that in the comment section down below and I'll make a poll in a few days. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys later.